All right. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It is time for Count It Off, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm your host, Jeff Dayton. And there's always something going on in the world of music. It's fun. You know, so many people are listening, and I'm hearing from people that have careers that are fascinating as authors, and they manufacture products that have to do with music, but it's so much stuff that I almost wish I could do and add those people, but the problem is that I've got so many musicians to get to, and one of my favorites is on today, and he's our guest, Chris Gantry, famous for a lot of things, being a friend of Kris Kristofferson's and Glen Campbell's, and being the songwriter that gave us Dreams of the Everyday Housewife. So I'm going to kick it off with Magic Marcia, and then we'll talk with Chris.
Welcome to Count It Off with your host, Jeff Dayton, where we explore the world of music through the eyes of some fascinating guests. So, get tuned up and let's count it off.
All right, here we are with Chris Gantry, live on the long-distance Bluetooth connection. Hey, Chris.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you? Pleasure to be here with you today.
Pleasure to have you, man.
It's going to be fun.
Well, it is going to be fun. You know, I mean, we've gotten to the point in our lives, you mentioned, you dropped your age. I'm actually 10 years younger than you are as of Sunday, so I'm keeping up, you know, I'm keeping up I'm cleaning up the crumbs that you leave behind here, but it's such a pleasure to have you. We've known each other for a good bit, and everybody pretty much knows that I was Glen Campbell's guitar player for 15 years, and during that time, Glen talked about you a lot, and he talked about the stories that, you know, the two of you shared. So we'll get to some of that, but I want to introduce you to folks, and I'm going to play a little bit of your music right now. This is one called Walking That Last Mile.
I descended into madness, had nothing left to give. They escorted me abruptly to the door. They yelled at me distastefully, don't show your face again. I was glad to get away from them for sure. Having been a castaway, at least most of my life, I was overly familiar with that scene. I learned to move and groove in the shadows, running free, lighting endless fires to my dreams. Let them laugh, let them scorn, curse the day that you were born. Wipe away the blood, get up and smile. They can beat you black and blue, what they'll never take from you is your pride, if nothing else. You live true to yourself, you'll take with you as you're walking that last mile.
All right, let the party begin. Walking that last...
Here we go.
Yeah, let the party begin. And I think you've been to a party or two, I can tell.
Look, Jeff, I've been doing this songwriting thing since I was 11 years old in New York. I have never done anything else, and I'm still doing it today at 83 and making records and touring and all that stuff. So that's just it. I'm a lifer.
Well, man, you have a fascinating story. Part of what I pulled out of your book, you have a book called Gypsy Dreamers in the Alley. I recommend it to people, and I recommend that you read it with a friend who knows Nashville music history, because this is deep and wide, and it is really blowing my mind. I started coming to town in 1983, 84, and a lot of the names that I got to run across back then are people that you've known for 20 years prior to that. And I'm just like so tickled. But let's go back to New York, and let's go back to Queens on Jamaica Avenue. What was life like for you back then?
Jamaica Avenue was a total inner city. Nothing country about Jamaica Avenue. My father had a business on that street. It was right under the L station. The elevator line that goes over the top of the street instead of under the ground. And I worked for him part-time as a young kid, and then I went to military school for 4 years. I stayed in military school, and during that time I had a transistor radio. When I was 13, I went into the school, lived there, and I heard upstate New York radio station play the Louvin Brothers. And that totally blew my mind, because my father was a concert pianist, And I grew up listening to classical music in the house. And that's all I really heard as a kid, all those beautiful melodies. Then when I heard the Louvin brothers singing in those wild harmonies and singing about meeting the devil and all this country stuff they sang, it captivated me. I couldn't get it out of my mind.
Wow.
And it wasn't long after that I heard Johnny Cash do I Walk the Line. I think I was 13 when I heard that. And that was it. I was done.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I think it affected whatever it was, that aha moment that we've had. You know, I started out talking to David Pomerantz about that a couple of episodes ago, and it seems to be a common thing with us, you know, that there's something that happens at a certain point and everything turns golden, and you say, I've got to do this. I have got to do this.
That's right. That's right. So,
well, that's so cool.
Well,
you know, and Sonny Throckmorton has said it often. He said, you know, we could have made a lot of money doing something else, like being lawyers or doctors, but we had to do this. We had no choice.
No, it chooses you, and that's just the way it is. You're captured and kidnapped by the muse, and it's a lifelong journey. I'm still learning. I'm improving at this. I'm starting to get better at it, and that I like. That I like.
Yeah. I still feel the same way. I mean, I'm just, every day that I'm writing, I'm trying to reach farther than I've ever reached before. And sometimes getting the truth on the page is a big reach, isn't it?
Well, oddly enough, that's really all I'm concerned with at this stage of the game, and have been for the last 20 years or so. The truth bombs are where it's at. If you can write a song that has a timeless message in it, you've done your work. And those kind of songs are given to you. You don't seek them. You don't try to think up things through titles and catchphrases and stuff like that. You show up with your guitar or the piano, and you wait until it's dropped into your psyche and travels through your body, out through your fingers, onto the pen and onto the page, and singing along with it. I mean, that's the way it goes. You just kind of deliver the message. You're the UPS man of the spirit, the mailman of the spirit.
I love that. You are truly a creator of words. I just love the way you do that. You know, I'm trying to write the stuff that really moves me, you know, and the more I do it, I'm kind of like you. I'm not nearly as developed a writer or an artist, but, you know, I'm trying to do things that I want the world to hear.
Well, here's the deal on that, man. It's that I have always shied away from psychotherapists and counselors and things like that. And I've been maybe asked to do that from time to time in my life, but I never did, because my songs sung back to me teach me everything I need to know about myself. I might not know it writing the song, and maybe a year later I hear the song and it imparts a message to me I never thought was possible when I wrote it. But I'm constantly hearing back what I write, and it enlarges me and it helps me. It's overcome lots of problems, lots of psychological issues that I might have had along the way. But those songs, I'm my best therapist, man.
Wow. You know, I hope everybody's paying attention, because you're getting a master class from a great instructor right here. I love it. Yeah. Well, let's stay in your younger days for now, and let's talk about the duo Tom and Jerry. Tell us that story. I'm fascinated, and I love it.
Tom and Jerry. Okay. In 1956, Simon and Garfunkel were called Tom and Jerry. That was their name. And they put out some doo-wop records in New York. One was a local hit called Hey Schoolgirl. And, of course, they were imitating the Everly Brothers. All duos were imitating the Everly Brothers back then, including myself and my partner that I sang with in military school. And Simon and Garfunkel, down at the Brill Building in New York, where all the great songs were written, decided one day to drop the mantle of Tom and Jerry and take on their real names. In the meantime, their manager heard us singing in a show someplace out on Long Island and decided that we could replace Tom and Jerry. So we became Simon and Garfunkel's alter ego again, and started to put out little teenage records. And that's how that whole thing got started. And I was in military school at this time, so we were kind of privileged. We got to go into New York when others had to stay at school and make recordings, and I was just learning how to play the guitar then too. So
wow. How old were you
that
then,
helped a lot.
Kris? How old were you then?
I was 14.
Oh my gosh! And I did look up. I did find. Now they gave you the same name, right? The manager said, "Well, if they're not Tom and Jerry, then you guys can be." Was it like that?
Yeah, they dropped that name, and we became Tom and Jerry. But oddly enough, Paul Simon wrote an autobiography, and in that biography, he said, "Well, Artie and I were getting tired of just trying to write songs under our name. We decided to do a few more, and under Tom and Jerry, and they named our records as songs they wrote and put out."
Oh my gosh!
No, back then everything was pretty crooked in the music business. There was payola. There was no laws for music back then. Everybody was doing outlandish things and taking on handles and names that didn't belong to them and every other thing. So that's what happened.
I love that. And you had your record, or one of your singles was called "Surrender, Please Surrender." Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Surrender, Please Surrender.
Well, folks,
little teenage song.
God, and especially "Hey Schoolgirl." You guys can go on YouTube and look these up, by the way. And thank you, Kris, for the hot tip. I did that, and I was just amused. One of the small world parts of that too is that I play with Tab Lavin, who is the guitar player for Art Garfunkel for the last 26 years. And so,
oh wow,
yeah, we do a lot of those hits, and I'm hoping that someday, some way, I'm going to get to be in the same room with Art, because boy, he's a big influence on a lot of us.
Absolutely, man.
Had great taste in songs, recorded some Jimmy Webb stuff, and you probably knew him being the same age almost. You probably got a chance to hang out with those guys.
I never did. I got locked into military school, like I said, for 4 long years. And it was that was a whole trip. That changed everything for me. I became very rebellious in those years, and it carried over into my early music when I came to Nashville. So
let's jump to Nashville right now. And here's an excerpt from your book. This is the book is called Gypsy Dreamers in the Alley. Our guest, Chris Gantry. And he said, in 1963, except for Ray Stevens' wonderful comedy songs, it was dog dead. Wait, what's that? Look, screaming down Belmont Boulevard in an old antique car. It's a bunch of crazy long-haired dudes whooping and a-hollering. They live in a boiler room basement up near Christ the King Church. They make homemade beer. They beat on banjos, mandolins, guitars, and a big upright bass, painted all colors of the rainbow. They never sleep. Girls are always going in and out. They make noise. They steal their food out of grocery stores. They write songs day and night and play their instruments till their fingers bleed. They write about villains and thieves and hitchhiking lovers that steal your money, who wear Spanish boots and bandanas that conceal mysterious things. The raggedy clothes and Viking hair scare the mothers of daughters who find these angels with dirty faces attractive and exciting. Kris, my God, man.
That was me getting to Nashville. I rented a room out in 1963 out on near the Belmead Mansion, and it was in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Nimrod Thompson. Nice, both lawyers. They were both lawyers, but they were weekend drunks. And on Friday night, when they got home from work, they'd start drinking, and they'd stay passed out on the floor in different positions all over the house till Sunday night. And I would go in and out and walk over their bodies and tiptoe around them. It was pretty crazy. So after that, I met a guy over at Centennial Park named John Sherman. He said, look, we have a place over on Belmont Boulevard, and we need a rhythm guitar player for our bluegrass band. And that's how that started. And that's what I was writing about, those guys living in that place. And there used to be a restaurant in Nashville called Cowser's Restaurant. Cowser. And Marvin Cowser lived upstairs, and Marvin weighed at least 500 pounds. He was huge. And they used to come and pick him up in a flatbed truck every morning and carry 2 or 3 people, carry him downstairs, put him in the flatbed, and take him to work. And they'd sit him behind the chair, behind the cash register at Cowser's restaurant. And it was a famous old Nashville establishment. He had a couple of places strewn around Nashville. So that was the beginning. And we lived down in the boiler room.
Man, crazy, crazy days, huh? Well, you got to Nashville. One of the lines from your book mentioned, I thought it was really a title almost. It was The Scent of the South in 63.
Oh, yeah, man. Scent of the South in 63. Nashville is basically unrecognizable today. It is all bricks and glass, and the feeling of gentrification, the gentry vibe has shifted out of the South in Nashville. Back then it was all just neighborhoods and quiet and two-way streets, and it was beautiful. Music Row was 16th Avenue and 17th Avenue South, and all operating out of houses that they rented. No buildings, no glass, no nothing. And it was, people knew each other. There was accessibility, and everybody, you didn't have to wait 10 years to get past the secretary to see somebody or an intercom system. You could walk into Chet's office or anybody, or Billy Sherrill's office, and just walk past, say, I got to go see Billy. Yeah, go ahead, blah, blah. And that's the way it was. Everybody knew. And the great thing about it is that everybody who ran the music business were all musicians and songwriters themselves. So
yeah,
that was great. There were no suits. It was not a business kind of a vibe. It was like hanging out with your own people. And if your song was better than the one they wrote for their artists they were producing, they'd record it. Wow. So it was cool.
There were remnants of that when I moved here, and even when I first started coming here, there were houses where the publishers would be there, and the writers would just be hanging around the living room in the front of the house, and great people would stop by. It was so much fun, and the Denny brothers and everybody was down there, and Charlie Bragg at If and Music, and all the guys. He was a sweet, sweet guy. I wish I could have honored him at an awards show by thanking him for being the first guy to invite me to hang out for a couple.
He was an engineer over at Monument Records too.
Yeah, and he recorded Flowers on the Wall for the Statler Brothers when Johnny Cash didn't show up one night, and they said, well, let's go do the song we've been kicking around, and that's how they got famous. Yeah, I love the stories. I love the history, and I hope all of us who are listening, today are going to share this episode with others, because Nashville roots are getting harder and harder to find because we're getting all covered up with concrete and glass, as you said, Kris, and it's a disappearing thing. It was a beautiful thing for a long, long time.
It's okay. I mean, all things change. I don't poo-poo anybody's music. I really don't, man. I'm a little sad that it's been a little dumbed down and a little overproduced, because there were actual real poets in the town back then who wrote poetically and wrote with melody and did some great things. And I don't hear that much anymore, man. Yeah. I don't hear it much. Well,
it's a big risk for today's market, to be that honest. And you came to town. I read in your book about you and the Opry and the people that inspired you. And one of your inspirations, being a youngster at the Opry, was listening to Flatt and Scruggs, and they were my first bluegrass supergroup, man.
Oh, they were awesome. Well, the great thing about the Opry, I used to sneak in the back of the Opry because I'd wait till all the musicians would go through the back door for the shows they played, and I'd just have my guitar in hand and get in line with them and go in the back, and there was no problem. And you got to hear all these guys and women and men and women all jamming with each other in the midst of getting dressed for the show. Like Lester Flatt might be in there with Bill Monroe playing. Buddy Emmons might be in there with the Osborne brothers and warming up with them. I mean, it was all this. It was like Shakespeare 101, man. You got to hear the great songs before they became hits. And you got to hear musicianship that was just off the wall, man. Just wild and crazy great stuff.
Yeah.
I was like a blotter, man.
I would have been there too. I'd have been that fly on the wall that just gets bigger and bigger with everything I'm soaking in. Just love that stuff. Well, I tell you what, let's skip ahead a couple of years from 63 to the summer of 65. And you encountered the cover of your book. Let's just step back a half a step. The cover of your book has yourself, Bob Beckham, Shel Silverstein, who was a brilliant writer. Everybody loved his stuff, and we can talk about what he wrote. And this long-haired kid named Kris Kristofferson.
Well, we were in the alley, and there was I forget the name of the lady who took the picture, but we just happened to be all in the same spot at the same time, and she asked if she could get a picture of us, and she shot it, and it's a kind of a venerable picture, because when I look at it and I realize that the music that came out of all of us at that time, and especially Silverstein, who was really on the top of his game at that particular point in time, it's quite remarkable, man. Quite remarkable. And Kris was just beginning to find his voice in that period. You know, we all got to Nashville and we were all trying to figure out how we were going to fit into this thing. I was from New York. I don't have a country bone in my body, but I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn it. I wanted to understand it. So being around the people who did it and made it famous and possible, that was the best school to you can imagine. It was just sucking it up in the streets. You can go to college, you know, you can go to Belmont College and they have songwriting classes and all that kind of stuff. I don't see how you can learn how to write a song in songwriting classes, man. You get it from being out in the middle of it, man, and listening and hanging with these people and staying up for 2 or 3 nights at a time, and blowing your mind and figuring it out.
Yeah. If you want to comment, by the way, on the show, you can write me something at radiojeffro@gmail.com. Again, it's radiojeffro@gmail.com. Love to hear back from you guys. And, share some love for our friend Kris today, and I'll pass it on to him. So you and Kris hung out a little bit, I guess, back then.
We hung out all the time. I was playing in Prunner's Alley, and I had just signed a contract to write songs in 65 with Mary John Wilkin.
Sure,
who, she wrote Long Black Veil with Danny Dill, and PT 109 and Waterloo by Stonewall Jackson. And
wow,
she was a great writer in her own right. And she saw something in me, and she signed me to the company and paid me a little bit of money. And then about 6 months later, she came to me and said, "Look, I'm getting tapes from a guy who's going to come to Nashville, and I like his songs. His name is Kris Kristofferson." So he came to town, and she brought him down to Prunner's Alley where I was playing, and he walked in an army uniform, and she introduced us, and we clicked right away. And so we wrote together at her publishing company for the first 2 years. We hung out every day and shared our progress and where we were going in our songs and blah, blah. And we became great friends, man. Great friends.
Yeah, and in fact, there's a song of his that refers to you. You want to tell us about that?
He wrote a song called The Pilgrim, chapter 33. He met me in an alley behind Columbia Studios one day, and he said, "Kris," he said, I've been writing a song about you. And I said, I didn't think much about it, to be honest with you, but I was kind of flat. I was young and, let's hear it. So he demos the song about a couple of months later, and he plays it for me. And I didn't know whether to love it or be offended by it, to be honest with you, because it was so stark and it was so real. And it was inspiring in a way, but I didn't know if I wanted to be listed as the guy who had won and lost and came back and lost it again, and my lonely journeys and all that kind of stuff. But I came to find out in years that that's all of us, man. That's all of us doing this crazy music thing. He was writing about himself as much as he was writing about me and all the people he mentioned in the beginning of that song. We're all poets and pickers and partly truth and partly fiction. And
love it.
We all are on our lonely journey on our way back home, man.
Man.
That's it.
What an honor to be part of that legacy and have that guy,
Yeah.
a songwriter,
really is.
And I know that Bob Beckham, from the picture on the cover, created Combine Music, had Kris under contract for a while too, I think.
Yeah, Kris and I both left Mary John, and we got signed at Combine. So there we were again, Kris and I back over at Combine. But there was a horde of other people there too that were just crazy great, man. Arthur Alexander was there writing. Tony Joe White came on the scene not before long. And Mickey Newberry was there. And Larry Gatlin came in.
Yeah.
Shel Silverstein was hanging out all the time over there. Billy Swan and Donnie Fritz were there. And Dan Penn and Spooner Oldham from Muscle Shoals were always hanging out. So there was this office filled all the time with these great, inspiring writers who were writing songs for the right reasons. They weren't there just to try to knock out hits. They were there because they were artists, man. They were more concerned with the art. And if their songs happened to get recorded by people, that was the uptick, man, and which they did. So,
man, wow. Well,
it was wonderful.
And going back to your comment about going to college to learn to write songs, there's your college right there, just hanging around like that.
Oh gosh, if you're in a room full of people like that every day for months and months, and it goes into you. It gets into you whether you like it or not. You're inspired by them all, and you take little bits from each person and incorporate that into your own being. And so you become a composite in a sense of all these people, and they did the same thing.
Wow, that's amazing. There used to be, about 10 years ago, there was a little publishing company. It never really survived financially, so they went away, but they had that same kind of vibe to it where they would take in anybody. You could go hang out there and you could write over there and you could use the writer's rooms and you could, cook in the kitchen if you want, or eat those big boxes of orange stuff that they bought at Costco, or whatever you wanted to do, make some coffee and hang out on the couches and talk to people. And, there was a girl that used to wear a shirt that said, "Hey, we should write sometime," that kind of thing. And,
there you go.
It was a community, and there weren't too many publishing companies like that in my time in town. I mean, a long time ago at Rensong, it was a little like that. But
what was the name of that company?
It was called Bandwagon Red. And there was a guy from I think Cleveland that had some money, and he said, "Well, okay, I'll take a swing at Nashville." But again, it's hard to get songs cut. Harder all the time, I think. And, I remember part of your book, you mentioned a thing about, after you've had all this success in your, big records and big connections and all that, and you go to one of the modern record companies and the secretary won't let you pass the desk. And you try to drop off a CD and it never goes anywhere,
No, man, accessibility is gone. You have to pass tests to get anywhere. And it's just like getting a record deal these days. They first want to know what your social media audience is like and how many people follow you. And that way, it's if you have a huge following on Facebook or whatever it is, then they might consider signing you to put a record out. So you have to go through all these hoops now. It's tough.
We're going to listen to some more of your music right now and bring in a song called Same Size Grave.
You got a big house, you got a big car, you got a big yacht, you got a big cigar, you got a lot of cash, you got a lot of weed, you got a lot of threads, more than you'll ever need. To everybody
Man, this is going to be a great record. This comes out when, Kris?
This record will be out in this summer, probably at the end of June, 1st of July.
All right.
The album is going to be called Worth Every Nail, and after one of the songs on the record.
Yeah.
And it's basically a record of truth bombs. It's just every song has a little bit of something in there that is kind of timeless a little bit. And particular song, it's you can be egotistically insane as you want to be, and intimidating as you want to be, but hey, in the end, none of it made a damn, because everybody's got the same size grave.
Boy, isn't that true? That's a great equalizer.
Yeah.
Here's a line from your book. We grab a handful of air, mix words into it, and sing it. I think, isn't that the process?
Well, that's the process. I was thinking about the Bible when I said that, because it said that when God created man, he took dust of the earth and blew into it. And out of that, a creation came. Mm. And I was thinking that's just the same way we write songs. We take a fistful of words and blow into it, and a melody comes out of it, and a song is created.
Man.
And, they say that we've been given a little bit of God's talent, a little bit of his creative force, and we create our own things in the same way.
That's profound stuff, Kris. You're a deep character, man. I'm going to go back to your book here again. This is the book called Gypsy Dreamers in the Alley, and our guest, Chris Gantry. Kris, here it is. I am not smart enough to write dreams of the everyday housewife. I was 24 or 25 at the time. A train was moving through me back then. I could not control it. The spirit recognized my fervor, quickly manipulated me into position, and proceeded to pour its longings through my willing soul at 210 miles per hour. That's something else. And it says here that Wayne Newton cut it at the same time that you and Glenn both had it out, you and Glen Campbell. And Gary Puckett.
Well, Gary Puckett did too, yeah.
Well, here's the story I heard, and then I want to hear the truth from you. Okay, so you can set me straight. The story I was told was that Glenn was on Gary Puckett's session for that. He was, Jerry Fuller had written Traveling Man and then became a big producer and pals with Glenn, because Glenn was on the demos for Traveling Man and all that stuff that he did. So there he was producing Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, and Glenn was on the recording session and the Wrecking Crew, and he recognized a good song and raced to get his own session and record the song and beat Gary Puckett to the punch. Is that true?
That's absolutely true, yeah. Gary and I became friends over the years, and we've talked about it a couple of times. And he said, "Damn that Glenn! He just jumped up, ran out of the studio, and recorded that song in the next day or two, and that was it." He said, "But it turned out for the best." He said. So,
well, the other
he was cool with it.
Yeah, the other side of that story was that Glenn had recorded a song with Jerry, and it was slated to be out soon, and Jerry called up maybe a week later, and he said, "Glenn, that song we just recorded?" He said, "I've got this new group, and I was wondering if I could get the song back from you." And Glenn, without a thought, said, "Oh, yeah, that's fine. There's lots of songs." You know how he used to talk. "Yeah, that's fine. Lots of songs." Glenn knew what he was talking about there, because there were a lot of songs, and he could spot them. I think the Wrecking Crew taught him well. So
it taught him well.
Yeah, and so the song made Jimmy Payne, my old buddy, he's gone now, sadly, but Jimmy wrote the song, and he got a cut from Glen Campbell and the new group that Jerry Fuller was producing called Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, and it was Woman, Woman.
Right.
So, each of them scored a touchdown on each other, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. Well, Jimmy Payne, he wrote that song with one of the Glazer brothers, Jim Glazer.
Mm.
Yeah, they wrote that together. That's
right. I loved being on writers' nights, and when Jimmy would be there, he was as sweet as my Uncle Jimmy. Just the nicest kind of humble dude. Just happy as could be, happy to be here.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
How did Everyday Housewife come together as a song for you?
I wrote it in about 20 minutes. I had one song that I needed for an album that I was going to cut for Monument Records, produced by Fred Foster.
Mm-hmm.
And I was missing something. He said, we need one more really good song. So I had been married to a woman I'm not married to anymore. And I was up in the attic where I wrote all these songs for that record, Introspection. And I just started hearing noises downstairs and thinking about women and stuff like that. And that line just dropped into me. It was just like a pearl. Bam. She looks in the mirror and stares at the wrinkles that weren't there yesterday. And I didn't know where it came from. It was the last thing I was ever thinking about, but there it was. Mm. And then I couldn't write fast enough. Put my hand on the pad, man.
I love hearing that, because I think every songwriter has had a moment like that where instead of laboring for, a month at a time, songs get delivered whole.
Absolutely. Those are the best kind, the ones written in 20 minutes, an hour, under an hour. After an hour or so, it becomes work. And the last thing we want to do is work as songwriters.
Oh, man, yeah. Going back to that little company, Bandwagon Red, and I was one of the writers, and they said, we need an up-tempo song for a vocal group that's positive on life. And I said, okay, I'll go write one. They said, no, we're going over there right now in 15 minutes. I said, well, that's long enough. I'll write you one. And they said, no, you don't even have a demo. Forget it. So they left without me. And I said, well, I'm going to write it anyway. And I went in that kitchen full of, Costco orange stuff, bags of orange stuff. And I wrote a song that's probably one of my signature songs. And it's just starting to blow up on my YouTube, called Live My Truth. And it's on the shorts on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
I'm so grateful that opportunity came and went, because it gave me a chance to write the song. And it came in about 20 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to go listen to that.
Okay.
When we hang up.
Yeah, that's great. In fact, when I interviewed David Pomerantz, who wrote stuff with Barry Manilow and, he's had a lot of cuts, and getting ready to do another record that'll come out this year. Before we did the interview, he said that's the song that he found that he was listening to of mine, and he was very complimentary. So songs get legs, and they go out and they do a lot of work for us. I think that's why farmers have big families.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You and Glenn got to be pretty good pals too, didn't you? Talk about that.
Well, we did. I went out to California and stayed at an actress's house named Terry Moore, who was popular in her day for movies like Come Home, Little Sheba, and I forget the big movie that she did. But anyway, we stayed at her house, and she was a good friend of Glenn's. And we hadn't really met yet. And he came over to the house with Johnny Rodriguez, and the three of us just went crazy for about 2 weeks in L.A. We wrote and we played and we laughed and we picked and we sang, and Tanya Tucker was out there at the same time, and not wild about the antics that were going on between me, Johnny, and Glenn. And at that time, Glenn was in his preaching mode, where he was very much emulating a Southern preacher and talking a lot about the Bible and stuff like that. But we had a blast. We had a great time, man. We always stayed friendly. And
he talked fondly about you all the time, and he would talk about you during the show, and we'd introduce the song. And I don't know, Chris, if you ever got to Branson and got to see the show we had at the Glen Campbell Theater, but we had dancers from Los Angeles, the Matthew Dickens dancers, and we had a ballerina during the Dreams of the Everyday Housewife. And it was,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was something else. You might be able to find that. I think there's a bootleg of the VHS videos that we did during the show, and sometimes those would emerge on YouTube. I hope we can find that, because Kim Craven was a dancer. She's a fabulous actress and artist and dancer and choreographer now.
What's her name?
Her name is Kim Craven, Craven. Kim Craven.
Oh, Kim Craven. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check it out and see if I can find it.
Last I heard, she was still in L.A., but definitely check it out. And ladies and gentlemen, everybody's listening to Count It Off. Man, we have just such a history lesson here with our friend Chris Gantry. You know, you and I have gotten to sit side by side on stage and share stories and songs with people. And I've always looked up to you, but I've looked over at you feeling like we really were brothers. And I understood what you were talking about, and I understood how you put the blood right there on the strings, and you sang the truth. And I've always admired that and aspired towards that.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff.
You bet. Let's listen to a tad more of your music, because, you know, we all love hearing what the work sounds like. This is a little bit of lost treasure coming at you from our guest, Chris Gantry. Count It Off. Love this feel, by the way. This is a Glen Campbell feel, you know.
Look, my dear, a star is falling. Could it be a lucky sign? A joyful life with you, my darling, is what I always had in mind. Look out there, a man is talking about a whole new way to live. He says the only way to freedom is learn to love and to forgive. Look down there at all the children, feeling loved and feeling safe. I remember this was promised in another time and place. Search for worthless things like gold, it'll make your blood run cold. Too much glitter leaves you blind. Human beings being human, a lost treasure worth to find.
I can so hear Glen Campbell doing that song, Chris.
Yeah, me too.
It's tearing me up a little bit. I miss old Glen.
I miss him a lot too.
Yeah.
Hey, there's very few presences like Glen in the music business today. There's no real great emoting singers like Glen was, man. I miss that so much.
I do too. You know, we do a show called Salute to Glen Campbell, and we're, you know, various places around the country, and more often than not, you know, I get to a point during the show where I can feel him up there. And he's coaching me. He's saying, "Hold your notes, Jeff." He never did that in person. I mean, he would just say, "Oh, you're going to do it like that, huh?" You know. But today I hear him coaching me, and he says, "Hold your notes. You know, let people see your heart. You know." And
there you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Make the music you want the world to hear, as my friend Paula Fuga said to me one time. Well, Chris, it's been a delight, man. I know we could go an hour and a half and not even cover 10% of your story and your history, but thank you for sharing early Nashville and you know, Jamaica, Queens, and all of the different parts of your life. You know, the record label with Simon and Garfunkel in the teenage days, and I love it. I eat it up, and I encourage people to find your record. Tell us the title of that record when it comes out again.
It'll be called Worth Every Nail.
Oh, that's a great title. That's a great title. Our guest, Chris Gantry. The book is called Gypsy Dreamers in the Alley, and it's been a fascinating episode of Count It Off. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure and an honor to be with you today. Thank you, sir.
All right, and to be silly to go out here, all you got to do is say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Hey, baby.
Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this show. We invite you to check out all the other episodes and share this channel with all of your friends. Until next time, peace.